Welcome back to the channel. Hey, my voice got an upgrade.
Wow!
I decided to break out the Tau again for the first time in a while, and I'm facing Chaos Knights for the first time. Let's take a look at the rosters. So I know broadsides aren't supposed to be too great, but I don't freaking care. They're back in my list, as I love the models. They're the first Tau models I painted, in fact. I've swapped out one unit of crisis suits for a chonky unit of 3 with rail rifles. We're playing Death and Zeal, and for secondaries I choose Bring It Down, Retrieve Battlefield Data, and Abhor the Witch, while Knights go for Ruthless Tyranny, Grind, and Psychic Interrogation. I hate my Abhor pick, as his list only gives up 6 points for it, but it's 6 points I know I can grab, whereas I'm wary about getting screwed over on Engage or something. Now, let's find out what happens if I completely forget every single Tau strat and ignore all the lessons learned from my previous 3 games with Tau.
That's okay. That's what success means to me, bro.
Here's deployment. Most of my units hide behind the obscuring ruins, but these ones aren't obscuring. And even though I deep strike my crisis suits to save room, there just ends up being nowhere for my broadsides to go, so they have to be somewhat exposed.
Not a great plan.
I mean, they have drones, and they're right at the back, but I still should have frickin' reserved them. I deep strike the Vespid, and also put 1 unit of Kroot and Kroot Hounds in reserve. A closer look at these incredibly awesome-looking Chaos Knights. The War Dog is deployed on his home objective to start making the most of the sticky objectives rule in this mission. The Abominant is in deep strike thanks to its warp-born stalker rule. Chaos get the first turn, and the beefy Rampager hurtles towards my lines. The War Dog heads for the nearest objective, ready to get it all sticky next turn. In shooting, he manages to plink all the drones off the broadsides. It doesn't help that I develop a sudden and severe allergy to passing shield drone saves. This then leaves the broadsides exposed to a volley from his incredibly lethal Relic Desecrator gun, which is more than capable of wiping the whole unit in one go. But the Desecrator shits the bed and completely whiffs. I don't think it gets a single hit.
Everything's gonna be alright. I am gonna be a legend.
My turn. My Kroot head north towards the objective. The droneless broadsides scramble round as the Ethereal dives behind the rock pillar for protection. The Fire Warriors retrieve battlefield data, and I proceed to forget or mess up all my command phase buffs and whatnot, even though I have it all written down.
It's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard.
Well, I simply must bring the Rampager down, or it'll, rampage next turn, so everything goes into it. One by one, my units shoot, and one by one, they fail. The broadsides only get 1 wound through its ion shield. Long Strike doesn't even hit, and the Riptide just doesn't do enough. The Rampager lives with 5 wounds remaining. Not bad all things considered, but not enough.
That was horrible!
Chaos turn 2. This pick is after movement and shooting. Sorry. The Rampager boosts its movement with an unholy surge of power and gets right up in my frickin' grill. As you can see, their considerable shooting is then easily enough to completely muller the broadsides. Fuck's sake.
Watch your profanity.
With the broadsides gone, the Rampager has the easy choice of then charging Longstrike, who overwatches to no avail. The Rampager makes short work out of Longstrike. So that's the broadsides and Hammerhead gone in a puff of smoke. Oops.
That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do?
What I don't get is why I hadn't moved Longstrike back into this empty space, or even further back behind the commander, or screened with the Fire Warriors, or frickin' something. I think I was just so confident of killing the Rampager that I hadn't properly thought this part through.
Dipshit!
My turn too, and the scramble begins. My crisis suits come down in my back corner as everyone else shuffles about. Although my firepower is severely depleted, I reckon I'm still in this game. The Kroot scramble onto the top objective, and the Vespid deep strike onto the Chaos home objective, and retrieve battlefield data. In shooting, I managed to finish off the Rampager, although it took one hell of a frickin' effort, as in addition to being unable to re-roll any hits or wounds against it, I couldn't even hit it on better than 4+, as slaying Longstrike had granted it favor with the Dark Gods.
Hate those people.
I do have enough firepower left to chip away at his Desecrator, fortunately, and I bring it down to 7 wounds. Okay, we're making a start now. Chaos turn 3, and we now have an awesome scene of his Desecrator and Despoiler taking the center of the battlefield back to back. Hell yeah. Elsewhere, the War Dog doubles back to deal with the Vespid, and his Abominant materializes from the warp in my deployment zone. Shooting sees the drones stripped from the crisis suits and one suit deleted. And then the Abominant successfully charges the Crisis and Ethereal with boxcars, but only manages to kill 2 of the suits. Up here, the War Dog charges the Vespid but has an absolute frickin' mare and kills just 2 of them. This leaves enough left to block it from even getting onto the objective, so that's quite a big turnaround up there, thanks to the Stingwing heroes. My turn 3, scramble, scramble, scramble. I reckon I can take the Abominant this turn. I also hit Kauyon.
It's Morbin time.
The Vespid obviously fall back. The Kroot foolishly head for the badly wounded knight, and I bring my remaining reserves on in the bottom right, retrieving data with the second unit of Kroot. Shooting goes pretty well, and sees the Abominant brought down to 10 wounds remaining. And then my Gauntlet Commander charges in to show it the terrifying might of Tau Melee. He comes so close to mullering it, but leaves it with 1 wound remaining, and takes a wound in return. Up here, the Kroot shoot at the knight but do nothing, and then try to charge, but are thwarted by some kind of unholy aura of dread, and freeze in place, unable to charge.
You cowards!
Chaos turn 4, and the Abominant falls back. The Desecrator shoots at the Riptide, but rolls a 111, some kind of mutated snake with 3 eyes. Appropriate for Chaos, actually. In 3 turns, I think the Desecrator hasn't landed a single hit, so I've been incredibly lucky there. The Abominant then charges the Commander and Ethereal, slays the Ethereal, and dies to the Commander's retaliation. Targeting the Ethereal was a good move, as it gives him another tally for grind. The Desecrator butchers all the Kroot up here, though, and the War Dog finally manages to slay all the Vespid. In terms of secondary so far, Chaos score their second Psychic Interrogation this turn, and look set to score their second grind. They scored a massive 5 points for Tyranny this turn, and are on 12 points for that one so far. They have 29 primary points, too. My turn 4. I'm trailing by a few points on primaries, with 25, as I only score 4 this turn. I have 8 for Bring It Down, and should be able to max that one out. I did my third data action last turn to nab 8 points, and the Abominant gave me 3 for Abhor. So currently Chaos lead, about 53 to 44, I think. Anyway, the Riptide, almost hidden from view by the Pillar of Rock, positions itself to finish off the wounded Desecrator, which is also almost hidden from view here, as does my Commander. The remaining Kroot also move on to the objective over here. So between them, the Riptide and Commander just about managed to kill off the Desecrator. I think it came down to my Commander's secondary plasma rifle, if I remember correctly.
Thank God.
That also nabs me another 4 points for Bring It Down. Chaos turn 5, and the War Dog's too far away to contribute, so the double gun Despoiler just comes forward and steals my home objective thanks to its nasty ol' OBSEC removal, and targets the Riptide, destroying both drones and leaving it on 10 wounds remaining.
I can work with that.
My turn 5. My remaining forces over here all get within 12 inches of the Despoiler, which is at full health. With the ridiculous might of turn 5 Kauyon, they blow the knight to smithereens.
Double sun power!
With the Riptide alone doing 16 frickin' wounds. That saves my objective, giving me 11 in the final turn, maxes out Bring It Down, and gives me another 3 for Abhor. Here's the table at the end of the game. Despite the absolutely horrendous start, Tau have ended up a lot healthier in pure survival terms. Let's take a look at the scores. So Knights pip it by 3 points on primaries and 1 point on secondaries, winning by 4 points, 79 to 75. I think at the time I only gave myself 12 for Bring It Down, but I obviously maxed it out by killing 4 big Knights, So this is a lot closer than I would have thought after my terrible first 2 turns, losing both of my biggest heavy hitters for basically no reason at all. I guess it shows just how much Tower favored in this matchup that I was still able to pull it back so close. Looking over my strats, which I inexplicably seemingly forgot all about, and looking back at some of the easy obvious changes I could have made to my positioning, etc., this matchup looks horrific and virtually unwinnable for knights. Although, to be fair, the defensive shenanigans they can pile onto one knight, their 4-up rotates, and their obsec removal, does give them a chance. In some ways, I'm kind of glad things went the way they did, as it made it a much more fun and close match for both of us, rather than just, I have Tau and you have knights, I win in 2 turns. As I hadn't used Tau in a while, I did get a bit frazzled with the layers of rules, which I'm going to try and claim contributed to my awful tactical positioning. And it made me even more eager for 10th edition, when the rules bloat will hopefully be stripped back. I still intend to give Tau a few more goes in 9th edition, though, as I do enjoy them currently. With the lessons hammered into me from this match, I feel incrementally more confident using them, which isn't saying a lot, though. Anyway, that'll do it for another report, so thanks to my opponent, and thanks for watching. Oh, and to my current subscribers who've watched previous reports, do let me know if this voiceover is worth it over the previous one. It's obviously an improvement, but it's taken me a lot longer to do, and is way more expensive, with the cost of the previous voiceover being so cheap as to be basically negligible. I may try out this voice for a couple of reports, and if they do better than usual, I'll look into whether it's financially feasible. Anyway, please like, comment, subscribe, and all that shiz, and I'll see you in the next report.
Like and subscribe.
You filthy animal.